because I had an event set up. Just click OK. Yeah, he's in the chat box waiting. There was a couple of other people there. Okay, now let me go to my computer and change some titles. I don't want to just have Hello World there. That'd be pretty boring. There we go. So during the course of the show, I just pick which messages I want to come up on the screen. I've got a funky titling piece of software. Yeah, this is out the back of my house. I live on a river. I tell you what, flying over there is so cool because you don't have to worry about obstacle avoidance. About 1.5 kilometers wide just to the other side, but then you've got a kind of an opening that goes somewhere else, so that makes it maybe 1.5, almost 2. No, this is just Sylvania to Blakehurst. Over in the background there's a couple of bridges that, you know, this is not two cities, this is just us. So I'm in Sydney, but this is, yeah. 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 Baby, can you go and have a look at the B shot and make sure Chris's audio is there? Down the bottom, down the bottom, down the bottom, bottom row, yep, that one. Just see if it's there. Don't make it go live. Just have a look at the properties. Change source, or no, don't do that. Cancel that, cancel. Get out of that. Double click on it. Double click. Have a look at the top, the tabs. You know the 5 tabs? Look at the left-hand one. Oh. No, it shouldn't be. Hello and welcome to Oz by Drone. And we've got Chris Rollins in the background. Hello and welcome, Chris. How you doing?
Hey, doing good.
Good to hear.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. So our regular co-host, John, is not available today. He's currently playing in a music festival, so he was unable to join us. So in his absence, we're going to have Chris here today. Chris is another video drone flying guy doing all sorts of fun stuff. So tell us a bit about yourself, Chris.
I'm a American, Texas-based filmmaker, drone pilot, and part-time YouTuber.
Okay. Look, just as a bit of an intro, I've got a short video clip of something that you've created. It's a short film that you've done. We'll put that up on the screen just so people can have a look at something that you've created.
Sure.
So, Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about this clip?
Yeah, so this was actually a book promotional short film. So there's a book that came out called Twitter and Tear Gas, and it's done by a psychologist who is examining the effects of social media, particularly Twitter, and political activism. So she wrote this book. We actually just got a chance to read it, and then she kind of approached us, me and the guys that I make films with, approached us about making something to help promote it. And so we only had about 60 seconds to send the message of what the book is and to kind of capture what it was about and to hopefully get people to want to buy it. So that's what that came out of.
Okay. So you do filmmaking as a living? That's your permanent role? Or
yeah, well, so I have a production company that we shoot primarily television commercials. Films I get to do whenever I get around to writing one, or when one of my friends makes one, and then that's I call that more of my passion projects, but that's where my heart is filmmaking.
Okay, and you do a little bit of drone flying as well, and use that as part of your filmmaking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You can't get away from just how much drones add to a production. They add so much production value.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we'll talk a little bit more, and we're going to be talking today about photography tips and tricks from someone who makes movies for a living and does that kind of stuff on a regular basis. But for the moment, let's get into our first segment. So we're going to have a look at some news for the day. So we got a few stories that I want to share with you. The first one, people have been having a look at Phantom 5 leaks and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of photos going around. So we're just going to have a look at some of the things that people have been sharing. And let's have a look at the first photo. Okay. So this is a picture that's been drawn by this Ostia LV guy. And he's been drawing pictures of different types of leaks and information about, DJI products for a while now. We've seen a lot of Mavic pictures and so on and so on. And I'm being told that my audio is low by someone who just text messaged me. Let me see if I can get myself up. Is that better? No. There we go. Anyway, so this is a sketch. This guy's been pretty accurate in the past. We've got another photo as well. There we go. So this is actually a photo of the new camera that people are rumoring to be coming on the Phantom 5. Have you heard much about this yourself, Chris, yet, or?
I've seen some photos. Actually, I haven't seen these that you're showing, but everything that I've seen looks like the basic platform of the drone is the same, but it looks like they're changing up the camera That looks really cool. It looks like interchangeable lenses to me.
That is indeed what we're thinking is happening, and I'm getting messages from my wife saying there's a bit of echo. We'll keep going and we'll see how we go for the audio. So yeah, interchangeable cameras is indeed what they're predicting. We don't know too much more about it, but this guy Chris has been pretty accurate in the past. Just thought I'd share that. But the only thing is, I'm a little bit skeptical about this picture being legit, and I'll tell you why. There's a mistake or a problem with that picture, and I challenge you, Chris. Let's put it back on the screen again, full screen. Chris didn't know this was coming.
Yeah, I did. Now I feel pressure.
So let's make that full screen.
Okay, now, I'm looking for a mistake.
Yeah, what is there in that photo that tells you that it's not legit? And in fact, this is a question for everyone else as well. There's something in that photo that tells you that it's not legit.
Great,
well, this is my opinion anyway.
All right, hang on.
And if I was Ken, I'd have some beautiful music I could play, like a game show music in the background, but I don't have Ken's library of music, unfortunately. Well,
I mean, okay, so I'm not sure what the giveaway is. Now, I will say there are no exposed wires, which is if this is what the product will be, then that's the first time I've seen a gimbal with 0 exposed wires.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm stumped.
400 AGL. I've just seen your comment come up. Let me send that one live. You are absolutely correct. The propellers. So we've had the release of the Phantom 4 Pro 2, and it's got the quiet propellers. So there is no way that they'd be releasing a Phantom 5 without the quiet props. So that's why I think it's a fake photo. But we'll find out in time.
Yeah, that's a good catch, guys. Man, I was sitting here like I honed in on the camera. I'm sorry, I need to go wide and then work it in.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake.
Interesting. Anyway, so that's our first story. I just wanted to share with people, this is what is being talked about and what is being rumored. I still think they may have a Phantom 5 with, a detachable, removable camera, but I don't think this photo is real based on that. But let's move on to our next topic, which is click that button. Oh no, that put the wrong one. The Phantom 5 for some reason came up on the screen even though I'm pressing another button. Our next topic is military. So there's a Shoko drone in Israel. I'll get rid of that title first.
What did you call it?
Shoko drone. So this is something new that's happened just in the last week. And basically, Israel is obviously very military in a lot of the stuff that they're involved in. And this particular drone is used for dealing with, there we go. And I've still got that other title up there that I've got to get rid of. Too many buttons to press. I'm learning all of this stuff, so bear with me. There we go. So yeah, a Shoko drone. Do you want to chuck that video up for me to my producer over there? So this is a photo of this drone, and it's your average everyday drone. But what is interesting, they have some payload in this drone, and they call it skunk water. So if you can imagine, if you're a unfriendly guy in a military sense, and you were showered with skunk water, you wouldn't continue to attack. So that's literally what it is. It's a chemical agent that is going to cause submission, for lack of a better description, of someone.
It's a non-lethal deterrent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got all technical and big wordy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all
That
good.
was cool.
Yeah.
That's really a cool idea.
Yeah. So that's something that I saw a release on this week. Let me go to our next topic. So over here, For some reason, those titles keep coming up, and I'll deal with that later. The next topic is no-fly zones. So this is a topic that's, near and dear to my heart. It's the reason I got involved in the DJI hacking scene some time ago, right?
I did not know this.
Yeah, so I'm one of the guys who've been reverse engineering bits of the code. Definitely not as much or as advanced as some of the core guys. So, Kevin Finisterre, also known as Hostile or also known as /. I've been in a little secret group with those guys and doing a lot of stuff. Now, my focus has been on the iOS app, but I've had other things that have taken me away from that, and I'm going to get back to it in the future. But for now, there was a previous discussion, and the guys who worked out how to bypass the no-fly zones, they didn't want to release that information to the public because they said, we don't want to be responsible for someone downing a plane or doing whatever it is that's bad.
Well, it makes sense.
And I get that. But the thing is, right, so the early versions of the DJI software that are out there already, that have been out for a long time, you can downgrade your firmware to those versions, and there's already been compromises that can bypass no-fly zones.
So you can downgrade, like say your Phantom to a previous firmware?
Yeah.
What do you call it? A series version or whatever?
Absolutely. So there's a photo that we're just going to put up on the screen. It's called a bird map from No Limit Drones. Let's just get that up and bring that full screen. So this is a list, and there's more information. So if you just Google No Limit Drones, DRONEZ, and you can have a look at what you can do on different versions of software. Now, the point is, if you can already downgrade to an earlier version that lets you bypass the no-fly zone, I asked the question, why are we keeping secret all of the no-fly zone information going forward? Right, so the new stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so someone who's a bad actor and just wants to, do bad things, they're not going to really care about which version of software they're on. They just want to turn off that feature. So to cut a long story short, I asked the question in the group, and we got a photo of a page that we'll put up. So there's a website that I run called dji.retroroms.info. And we'll put that photo up. So this is actually the page that tells you how to bypass the no-fly zones.
It's now, that easy.
It's technical. I don't pretend that it's easy.
Okay.
But this information we decided to publish, and what I'm predicting will happen in the future, the people that make No Limit Drones and some of those other products and packages, they'll eventually come back and say, well, the information's out there, let's go and include that feature as a check the button kind of thing. Now, just to be clear, I am not encouraging people to, do stupid things, right? I am not encouraging people to go to an airport and try and take off, right? But there are people who actually do work for a living who need to work in areas that are being blocked by DJI. Now, in America, I understand you've got a self-unlocking thing where you can press a couple of buttons, you're authenticated, and you can fly. It's not the case in Australia. You've got to send an email, and thereafter it's plug and pray. You don't know how long it's going to be, if it's going to be days or weeks. So in the early days, when this system was first opened up, it was weeks. Now,
so have you tried it recently?
Me personally, no, but some people I work with have, and I'm hearing it's at least 2 or 3 days.
Wow. So I have flown several times in no-fly zones where it was, for example, a farmer's grass airstrip and I was on the edge of 5 miles from his farm. A farmer who, doesn't even rarely fly, but I was flying in someone's backyard, and they said, by the way, you're in technically a no-fly zone. You can push OK and we'll let you fly, but you have to hit this button to say that you're taking full responsibility for everything that happens. However, last weekend, I drove 4 hours to do a YouTube video. I was invited out by these guys to come film, and as we drove out, We got. Do you know? Have you ever heard of Fort Hood? It's been in the news in the last couple of years. It's a very big military base, and we were 500 yards from their border, right from their outside fence, and the drone wouldn't take off at all. There's no way I could get around it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it is one of those annoying things, but like I said, so that website dji.retroroms.info. If you go to that website, it doesn't just have information about that. There's a lot of other information as well. So I encourage you to go and have a look at that. And that's all of the news. Just to quickly go to something else for a minute. So I've got too many buttons to press. I definitely need another set of hands and another brain as well. Anyway, here we go. So just to help our channel out, encourage you to like and subscribe to this video and click the bell if you're a first-time viewer today. We also have some Twitter information and Facebook. So just encourage you to share. We're a small channel. So please do help us to grow. If you want to send us anything in the post, there's an address for you on the screen now, 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 2224, Australia. And if you are able to send something for viewer video of the week, and I would love people to send, particularly those people in Australia. This week's video we've provided, so John, our regular co-host who's not in today, he's submitted a video that we're going to be sharing a little bit later. I just realized that we had one more topic that I just briefly want to share. So there's one more news topic that I forgot. So Google have been doing some testing of a drone delivery system. Let's show the video.
Yeah, hi Nick, this is Neil Parford at Barmax Homestead. Could I order some dog food for my dogs, please?
So quite an interesting opening. Chris is unable to hear the audio, but there's a guy asking for a delivery of dog food. Right, so
of moving things.
I like these drones.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, Google is doing some testing, and they're testing a drone delivery system in Australia. So after the show's over today, I'll be putting a link to this video in the description. I didn't put links in before, just so for everyone's benefit. The first time I did that, YouTube said I was spamming them or something when I put links in the description. So I'll wait till the show's over, and at that time I'll put all of this info in there.
Can do autonomous delivery.
So it looks like a Delta Wing that can do, it can fly vertical. Like it's like a drone that turns into a Delta Wing.
From their perspective,
I think that's what those are called.
Yeah. And there we go.
Wow, that's cool.
it's years from a product, but it is sort of the first
That's awesome.
That we want to stand behind.
Okay, so that's all we've got for news today.
Hey. Mm-hmm. Thanks. Okay. Okay.
So you're new drone pilot, and all you want is for your footage to look just a little bit more professional. Which, I mean, to be honest, that's what we all want, right? So one thing you can start doing right now that will make your footage look more professional is stop using automatic camera settings with one caveat. Ready? Histogram, 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 histogram. Have I said histogram enough? Let me explain. Okay, so as you venture into manual camera settings,
It is so weird watching myself.
exposure, just using your eyes, looking down at the monitor, can get a little tricky, and it can definitely be inconsistent. Every phone, tablet, or monitor has a different color and dynamic range. So what you're seeing with your eyes may not be accurate to what you're capturing in the SD card. It's one of the most frustrating time wasters as a filmmaker is when you go out and you spend a couple hours filming this great, what you think is great footage, only to come back, sit down in front of your computer and realize it's unusable because I've over or underexposed it. So instead, what you should be trusting is the histogram. And if you've never used a histogram before, I know it can seem intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. On the left is your darks and shadows all the way to pure black, and on the right is your brights all the way to pure white. So if your histogram looks like this, it is too bright and overexposed. And if it looks like this, it's too dark and underexposed. And there's a term in the photography world called clipping. Basically that means if your image is too bright or too dark, a lot of that detail information is clipped off, so it's lost, and that's detail information that you can't get back when you sit down to edit.
Okay, so we did have a few challenges with some audio there. I tried to turn it up midway through.
Okay.
So you had one word that you were sharing, histogram, histogram, histogram.
Yeah.
Tell us about the histogram.
The histogram reads exposure of your image. So it takes into account your darks, blacks, midtones, and highlights. And so the reason I made the video, because I was having people ask a lot about proper exposure, and the histogram basically can help you from getting an improper exposure. A lot of times when you're out in the field, and like if we're using your phone or your iPad, the sun can make you not really get a good view with your eyeballs what you're actually capturing. And so if you have the histogram on your screen, you can actually get a very accurate, a digitally accurate readout of your exposure.
Okay. So what should people be looking at doing with the histogram? And we saw on the video, we saw that there were two sides to it, right?
Wow.
So the left and the right. Just
Right.
because we did have a few audio issues, do you want to just explain what we're looking for there?
Sure. So mainly, there's not a right or wrong necessarily histogram readout. What I try to do is keep my histogram from touching either side. So if one of the things I said, I don't know if it was muted during that time, but there's a term called clipping where if your histogram is touching the bright end of the spectrum or the dark end of the spectrum, there's information that's been clipped off, so it's actually gone. Details and color will all be lost when you sit down to edit. Even if you're into color correcting and color grading, if that histogram is touching either end of the spectrum, you're going to be losing information. So you want to try to get that histogram where both ends of the reading are not touching either end or either side of the histogram.
Okay. So I'm just checking. I saw that we did lose my audio at some point as well. By the way, just to share something really, really frustrating, Chris, and you haven't heard of my Wirecast struggles probably, but just imagine I've got a soundboard down here, a sound desk, a mixing desk connected to Wirecast. And it's not actually a mixing desk, it's a MIDI controller, right? So if you've heard of Ableton controllers, it's an APC 40 Mark II. And whenever you change from one shot to another, the audio faders, what is assigned to each channel gets randomly assigned. Thank you, Wirecast. So I'm trying to turn up the audio on one thing and it does something else totally different.
So every time you switch shots, the audio just switch. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good
Anyway,
times, guys.
anyway, so that's thanks, Wirecast. So that's the reason why. Chris says, I'm good now, Greg. So thanks, Chris. Anyway, so histogram. What else have you got in photography? Keep in mind, we're a drone photographer, and here's a challenge I want to give to you, right? So I fly over water a lot, and my challenge is reflection off the water. Now, before you say ND filters, the challenge that I then get is you're changing directions, and if I'm going up the river one way, I get crappy reflection. I'm going down the river the other way, and, it's a constant battle.
So you're talking about polarized ND filters?
I haven't got polarized ND filters, and it's on my list of things to do.
Yeah, so the polarized ones are the ones that cut through that glare. However, you have to, and that's the annoying part about the polarized filters. You have to set it for the direction you're planning on capturing, filming. So if you turn within about 45 degrees of where it's set, it really doesn't do anything for you.
Okay.
But as far as the river thing goes, that's a tough one because what I try to do is avoid filming anytime when the sun is directly overhead. So I'll film like either early morning or late afternoon, evening, kind of that golden hour, blue hour time.
Yeah.
And that eliminates a lot of that harsh, direct, straight up and down sun glare. But again, I mean, not everybody can film at those times.
True.
Sometimes you just want to get out and fly.
True. Oh, I heard something then. Anyway, let's just... Myself. Yeah. Anyway, just so the other settings we've got on our camera, right? So the recording, here's another consideration that, is really applicable to me. Every time I want to play videos out on live streaming, again, I'm going through Wirecast. And Wirecast, in this case, I can't send at 720p or 1080 because the internet in Australia is too primitive and backwards. Thank you, Telstra. Sponsored by Telstra. We love you, Telstra, for the internet you give us. But it's not good enough to do anything more than a 480p stream, and even then at 500k. Sorry, 500k, yeah.
Yeah.
I can only do half a meg. Anyway.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah. Welcome to our world. And I'm paying for the most expensive residential internet service you can get.
Wow.
Okay, I'll stop complaining. But here's my point. Here's something that I learned. So if I'm trying to get video for this program and I'm pulling down your clips, I know I'm going to be sending them back to YouTube at 480p. So when I'm downloading from YouTube, I download the 480p version because otherwise Wirecast has got to convert it dynamically and re-encode it and do all of the magic, which generates more CPU load, which makes it more unreliable and all of those kind of things. So there's my personal tip. If you know you're going to be sending something out at a particular speed, a particular resolution, either record it or convert it beforehand if you're doing live work. But
yeah, for sure.
But having said that, there's good reasons to record in 4K or other high resolutions as well. Chris, over to you.
Yes. Yeah. So for anything that I do on YouTube with my camera, my regular camera, this one, I shoot typically 90% of the time in 1080. But anything I shoot on my drones, I'll shoot in 4K. That's mainly because I feel like it's capturing a better image at 4K. The bit rate's incredibly high. And then when I export through my editing software, I'm exporting to 1080. Now, we don't have the bandwidth issues that it sounds like you guys are having. But I think for outside of Australia, anyway, no offense, guys, but I think 1080 is a perfectly fine format. I don't personally feel like 4K is necessary for making engaging, beautiful footage.
Yeah. Okay. We had a question.
Now, you upload for regular YouTube videos. Would you upload at 1080? I mean, I know it's probably going to take you an eternity to upload, but yeah. Do you still upload at 1080? I do.
Okay. And I go make a coffee, go to the supermarket, and eventually go to bed. By the next day, it's finished uploading. This show is proudly sponsored by Telstra. So it is. Australia is really, really frustrating with our internet, and we've now got the NBN. I don't have it yet, but here's the annoying thing: I'm already on HFC, which is the technology that's going to be used to deliver my NBN. So I don't know how much better it's going to get when we get that.
I'm not sure what those terms mean.
NBN is the National Broadband Network. It's something that the Australian government decided in their infinite wisdom. They were originally going to roll out fibre to every single internet user in Australia, government sponsored. And then they changed their mind and said, no, we're just going to do fibre to the, close to your home, and you'll have to worry about the last mile with whatever you get. We had a question here. Which color encoding do you recommend, Chris?
Do you mean picture profile?
Yeah.
In the drone, I use the D-Cinelike on the DJI drones. It's flat enough that I can still color grade it. The D log is too flat for me. I don't like how flat it gets. It's almost too washed out for my taste and partly for my skill set on color grading. So I go with the D Cine like. I go -1 on sharpness, but saturation and contrast I have at 0.
Okay. So let me go to some of the other parameters, right? So we've spoken about speeds in terms of, we haven't spoken about speed yet. So at the end of the day, it's all about getting light in, right? Light into the sensor. Now, the things you can play with, the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO, and so on, how much of that do you play with and how much of that do you leave up to the drone?
I don't do anything automatic. I don't trust automatic settings. It kind of takes a general view of the entire image and kind of tries to figure out what best it thinks would be, what you want. So I go 100% manual settings. I almost film everything in 24 frames or 25 frames for you, PAL guys.
23.7 or
23.97.
I mean, who has fractional frame rates?
USA, baby.
Yeah, you guys are always behind us. It's already Sunday here. But anyway, moving on. So I film everything in 23.97. And then I keep my shutter speed at 50. And then my ISO and my f-stop is kind of where I play with my exposure a little bit. Yeah. I mean, as a general rule, people have told me keep it at 100 ISO. Is that a good general starting point? And only change it if
absolutely.
You need to? Yeah?
Yeah. That's going to give you probably the prettiest richest color saturation and detail.
Yeah.
The higher you go, it's going to start suffering more and more.
Yeah. Look, there's just so much we could talk about forever on camera settings, and I don't want to talk about it all today. But
and a lot of it's theory, and personal preference.
Do go over to Chris's channel later and have a look at that. He has a lot of information about photography and movie making and drones and all of that kind of stuff. And he also does some really crazy things at times. I've seen him riding up and down on go-karts, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
I got an experimental video coming out this week, as a matter of fact.
Okay. What's it about?
Well, kind of sort of along the topics that you were talking about with the new Phantom. I kind of got an idea. I don't want to give too much away, but I got an idea based off a conversation I was having with some guys the other day about what the Phantom 4 would have. The Phantom 5, what it would have. And I was talking about having a detachable camera, so you could interchange the camera, not just the lens, but almost like a Inspire. And so I decided to try and put the two together to see how well the Phantom would function as a interchangeable camera drone.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay. That'll be interesting to look at. And I'm sure it'll be a nice crash as well. Okay, so if you want to see Chris throw away a really expensive camera underneath his Phantom. Anyway, there's one more question we had from Greg Hilton. Do you have a preferred f-stop? By the way, just a quick comment. If people have got specific questions they want to have answered, can you put the hashtag question inside the YouTube chat? I can search for that and make sure we bring those to the screen. We're going to be having a chat session after the next video. So if you've got questions for Chris or for me, put it in the chat with a hashtag question and we'll make sure we get to it. But to answer the question, do you have a preferred f-stop?
Not really. With drones, I don't. The f-stop, it does restrict light getting into your sensor. My f-stop on the drone, I typically use just as a way to brighten or darken the image. When I'm shooting with my camera, my professional camera, I try to shoot wide open, like 2.8 or 1.8 1.5. I try to shoot wide open because it gives me a real shallow depth of field that looks all cool in Hollywood. But with the drone, I really don't worry about it too much. Typically I'm hovering somewhere around 5 to 6 on my f-stop. And then I'll just kind of adjust it up or down if I need to for exposure. But no, I don't really have a preference.
Okay. So let's move on. We're running a little bit behind. So we're going to have a quick look at a video that's from John, our regular co-host. And let's run that video.
I've been flying drones
Oops.
since Phantom 1.
Oh.
All of those drones had a course
Lot of
lot.
me.
Let's
there.
try that again. There we go.
Wow, that's nice.
So, and I'm going to try and adjust the audio correctly. I can't see on the screen. There we go. I think I've worked it out. I didn't turn my audio down this time. So this is shot by John, and it was a timber boat festival. The music in the background, John is a jazz musician as well, for those of you who don't know him. This is not his band, but something that he happened to like the music from. And it's a really, really beautiful, cinematic river-based kind of stuff.
Wow. Do they do this every year? That's beautiful.
It is yearly, absolutely. I think this one was from 2 years ago.
Okay.
But when John wasn't around this week, he said he wanted to send in some video. So this was it.
That is awesome. I can hear the music in the background. It's very fitting.
Okay. We're about halfway through the video, and I won't spoil it for everyone. Let's move on. But that video, we're going to make sure there's a link to that in the description, so definitely have a look. And just a reminder, for those people who are watching from Australia, please send us video content. Now, the reason why that's important, this is Oz by Drone. When I first envisaged this channel and doing what it is that I'm doing, I said to myself, hey, I'm flying every day. I'm going to be able to have heaps of content and heaps of footage, and everything is going to be fine. Sounded great in theory, but in reality, it's so much time spent getting the technology right of this Wirecast software. I literally am almost a full-time dedicated employee and crash test dummy for Wirecast, trying to get their software working. But that's another story. So if people, particularly those in Australia, could send me some content, that'd be cool. After I finish taming the beast, I'll start putting some of my own stuff up. But in the meantime, what have we got here? It's now time for chat. So I'm going to go and press that button over there, and then press that button and something like that, and go... No, it did recording. See, this is the wonderful thing about our software. We'll try it one more time.
You never know what you're going to get.
There we go.
There it is.
Chat. So we're here for your questions at the moment, and my daughter's pointing at something. I don't know what she's pointing at. Ah, that's right. So just a quick reminder, Mel, if you're watching at the moment, if you could join the rendezvous session during this chat session right now. So we're going to have 400 AGL as a guest coming up. When you join, we'll be able to hear you, but no one else will. So make sure you don't say too much, otherwise I'm going to have voices in my head and Chris and I are going to look really, really funny. Anyway, see you in a moment, Mel. So, questions. So, have people got questions about photography, about flying, about anything we've talked about today that you'd like to chat about? Let's have a look what's in the chat room. So, we see from Mel that his birds are headed to Carolina Drones for repaired, and he wants to make his video go viral. I think there's certainly a good chance of that, and we'll share with people what that is in a little while. And again, a comment to Mel. Did you get your blood pressure back down, Mel? Who else have we got here? Hi, Rick.
Drone flying has a way
Chris.
of pushing that blood pressure up pretty high.
Yeah.
Particularly when you put yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone and probably a little outside of common sense.
Yeah. Just while we're chatting here, and Mel, you came in for a brief moment, but we had no video signal from you when you came into the dashboard there. So give it another try and hopefully we can see you. Any other questions? Ozbeach Andy, I see you're around as well. I'd love to share some of your videos next week. That would be awesome. So if you've got anything you'd want to share with us, feel free to send something to that upload URL. That would be awesome. Okay, Mel, we're getting you up on the dashboard now, and we have your camera. So my daughter's going to go and do some magic at the moment where she's going to work out and press some buttons to get Mel onto the screen. So that might take a little while. In the meantime, we're just going to do a tap dance here. We've got slow motion. What would you use? So that was a question from Daryl. Now, I don't know specifically what he was alluding to, but...
Is he referring to frame rates, Daryl? So,
yeah,
if it
we
is
can only
frame
guess.
rates, I'm just going to take a guess until he types something else. So you can do slow-mo with 60 frames per second. Or 50, I think, in your guys' case, because then you can at least slow it down by half. I like to shoot in 120. For whatever reason, I'm trying to remember. Excuse me, I got the hiccups there. I'm trying to remember if the Phantom 4 does 120 frames per second. I want to say that it does not.
No, it doesn't. No.
Okay, so I've only shot in 60 frames on the Phantom, and it does a really good job if you want to slow it down by half or by about 60% if you want to shoot in your 25 frames per second. But yeah, just be sure. So whatever your frame rate is set to, be sure that your shutter speed is double that. So if you're shooting in 50 frames per second, be sure your shutter is set to 100 frames per second. That's going to give you the smoothest, best final result.
Okay. Good advice. I saw another one. Have you updated your DJI app yet from Chris?
I haven't today, but I didn't get to fly today. So it must be a new update.
Yeah, there is a new one. I saw a message the other day. I haven't flown myself either yet, but it's always a lucky dip updating the apps, but that's another story for another day. Chris, how long have you been flying drones for?
Since the Phantom 1. When was that? I don't remember. I've had a Phantom 1, a Phantom 2. I skipped the Phantom 3. So whenever the Phantom 1 was the only offering that they had, that's how long I've been flying. So what's that, like 6 years? 7 years?
Yeah, it's been a while.
7 years maybe? Let's say 7. That sounds better.
Yeah. Okay, so we may have more questions coming in. I don't know. For those of you who use Macs, some of you may have heard the term beach balling. Do you know what beach balling is, Chris?
I think I lost you.
Hello?
Oh,
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, we had a little bit of an
went...
internet. Yeah, the internet is wonderful here. For those of you who use Macs, and Chris, do you know what the term beach balling is?
I can take a guess. Is it the magic wheel?
Yeah. So the software that drives the titles and the chat messages that come up to screen is controlled through a web browser, and it's beach balling. So anyway, no more chat for now. That's a good reason to stop.
Okay.
In the meantime, let's bring in Mel, and we're going to start just by playing the video before we go to Mel. So let's get that video up on the screen.
Myself and a friend playing with the map.
Uh-oh.
You know what's going to happen, Chris.
Okay. Now at this point we've done a kind of a 180, and there she goes. And we've got a question mark on the screen as well, which is because of my other Mac. So just clear those top two layers. I'm just talking to my producer daughter over there. There we go, the video's back.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is Mel, who we're going to speak to in just a moment. A very bad idea, as he says, to do active tracking with these two devices. So what happened in a nutshell is you've got your Mavic Air sitting behind active tracking the Inspire, and they wanted to say hello to each other. So let's see if we can bring in Mel to say hello just after we watch the crash. We've got to watch the crash.
Oh, my heart.
There we go. It's still going, and as you can see, it's complaining and got some error messages up on the screen there. And there she goes. So the audio for that video didn't come through, but Mel's final words: active track works well. Collision avoidance, not so well. Anyway, let's stop that video for now. So Mel, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Mel, tell me, you've been flying an Inspire for a little while now. I've seen a couple of your videos.
Yes, sir. Been flying drones or radio-controlled aircraft of some sort for over 40 years, actually.
Okay.
Wow.
And do you do this commercially or for recreation, or a bit of both?
A bit of both. I've got the commercial side going with my website and business cards and official toll-free phone number and all the website and all the garbage. I'm getting set up to start that, yes.
Okay. Okay. And how long have you had the Inspire now?
I got the Inspire probably October, November last year.
So still within warranty.
maybe.
I don't know if that one's covered by DJI though, but you can always try.
No, it's not. I bought it used.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I bought it used off of eBay.
Okay. So just run us through what was happening. Who was your mate with you? Who was flying the Inspire and who was flying the Mavic? Who's the guilty party?
The guilty party is the Mavic, actually, DJI, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You know, I can't really say that. In my real job as a commercial truck driver, the man behind the wheel is the one that's responsible. I was the man behind the wheel, and I am the one responsible. And my partner, a complete novice, had absolutely nothing to do with it. And in later analyzation, I thought that even if I had been flying the Mavic myself, and I'm a fairly seasoned pilot, it was so quick, and by the time as I was watching the two birds visually, by the time I knew that the Inspire was about to become the target of a missile, it was too late. I don't think I could have even avoided it. I really don't think that I would have been quick enough to avoid the crash. One of them would have went down, I think, regardless.
Yeah. Okay. Look,
But it was a horrible collision. The sound was absolutely bone crushing.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So while I'm here, I'm going to get Chris to ask some questions and have a chat to Mel, just so that I can try and restart this software that's playing up over here. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Man. Hey, man. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, how was your, okay, so as someone who's crashed a couple drones, what was your, gut thoughts, gut reaction when that happened?
I can't verbalize that in public. No, actually, I was in slight disbelief that I had just watched two of my favorite birds come together and go crashing to the ground.
Yep, I know that feeling.
My second thought was, they're only 21 feet off the ground, so maybe it won't be total devastation.
Yeah.
So I came back to my truck. I grabbed my action cam and my Roland R5 so that I could record audio, and went hiking. And yeah, at the end of the video there, you see where I just kind of pointed the camera at all the pieces scattered about the ground in about a 10-foot radius. It was pretty ugly.
Yeah. It's like gut wrenching.
Oh, it was absolutely terrible. I was literally speechless. In fact, I was so frazzled in the brain that I kept calling the Mavic the Spark because I have a Spark also.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you listen to the audio, if you go to my channel and watch the video, I've got audio where I narrated on there and stuff. And as I'm looking at the parts, well, there's the Inspire, there's the Spark, there's the camera, the Z3, not an X3, but a Z3 camera from the Inspire. Here's the gimbal over here and there's the Spark over there. I just kept calling it the Spark. I don't know. My brain was fried at that moment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think I think everybody who watched it, because we're all pilots, I think we can all, even if we haven't crashed that bad, I think we can relate pretty well to, or we can empathize with you pretty well as to, it's hard to watch. And this is the thing, I couldn't look away.
But
it's painful. It is painful. It is physically painful as a pilot.
It hurts my wallet too.
And I never thought, I've never crashed one, really. I mean, seriously crashed one. I nearly lost my Inspire over the St. Clair River one day because I clipped the concrete pillar of the bridge support and lost about half or more of one of the propellers. Yikes. So talk about an unruly bird to fly. Try flying one with 3.5 propellers instead of 4. But I got it back over ground and landed it and didn't destroy it. And then I thought, well, that was a near miss. That was almost a total crash. I have yet to crash one. I'm really pretty good, at flying. And I thought to crash one would be pretty hard. To crash two would be worse. To crash two at the same time is devastating.
You are in a complete league of your own. I mean, I don't think that's going to be topped for quite a while.
Yeah.
Well, my mom always said I was the only hell she ever raised, and whenever I do anything, I do it full throttle, 100%. There is no halfway with me. So
sounds like you and I collaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, full throttle, 100%, or don't do it at all.
That's awesome.
So how long to fix, Mel? How long is it going to take to fix? Have they given you any indication?
I don't know. I talked with Frank, the owner of Carolina Drones. I'm sure that the Inspire is a total destroy because the chassis itself is tweaked. The bird frame itself, because the battery will not slide down inside the battery compartment. You got to push it down in there. So the chassis of the Inspire is out of square. I don't think that's going to be repairable. The Mavic, Frank said that they can work wonders with it. So the left rear propeller arm just kind of flops like a dead fish, you know. The gimbal, of course, was hanging by threads of the gimbal cable. The rest of the Mavic didn't really look all that bad. So the other three arms folded in, everything looked good as long as none of the boards inside are destroyed or anything. And
Yeah.
I understand that's all replaceable as well. So I think the Mavic may come back to life. It's going to take a couple jolts of voltage to get it to go, but I'm pretty sure the Inspire is just going to end up being a maybe I'll put it over that rifle over my fireplace, kind of like a deer
On a
head, you know,
mantle,
just
yeah.
just put it over the mantle on the fireplace, and yeah, that'll be the trophy.
I wonder, you know, I crashed a Mavic, and it's got 3 out of 4 working legs. I kind of wonder if we could put our drones together to make one whole one.
You got some duct tape? Let's give that a try.
No, hang on. Let me grab it. Let me show it to you.
Mine's actually in a box headed for Anderson, South Carolina right now. So,
Yeah.
oh, Chris, mine's actually in a box headed for Anderson, South Carolina right now. So, oh my goodness. No, mine didn't look that bad. Believe it or not, mine did not look that bad.
So yours wasn't hit by an F-150.
The arm.
I saw that. That was
It's not that
equally
bad.
as tragic. That was
Exactly. I saw that video too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look, let's move on. We've got one more quick topic that I want to have today, and just to quickly explain what I think happened, and I could be wrong, but active tracking, it's assuming two-dimensional object tracking. I think the fact that your Inspire was not on the ground, it wasn't necessarily coded to track something in the air. So it can track in the X and the Y, but not the Z plane.
It was tracking. That was the thing. It was
Tracking,
tracking.
yes.
It was spot on. The collision avoidance is the part that failed.
Yeah, collision
Had the-
avoidance,
because
absolutely. Absolutely. I'll agree with you on that.
When I brought the Inspire to a stop, the Mavic was a good safe distance behind. And what I was too low with the Inspire. I was only about 9 or 10 feet off the ground. I wanted to get a little more air under the Inspire. And when I went up, the active tracking on the Mavic did not make it go up with the motion of the Inspire.
Yeah.
It stayed at 21 feet. And then the collision avoidance did not see the Inspire as a drone. It saw it as a bicycle. So I guess it wasn't a problem. And it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think also they're not really designed to active track something so small. So, you know, the way it's set up is either for a human, a bike, a boat, a car. So when you have it active tracking the drone, I think in its fake brain, it's thinking that object is much further away than it actually is.
And that
So
could
it
be
might
too.
coming in. It's kind of coming in hot, thinking that it's
Coming in hot, but even still, I took the Mavic at full speed toward the side of my truck. And when it got within 10 feet, it started beeping. And when it got within 4 feet, it was backing up. It would not go. So I just think that the sensors were not able to pick up the physical size of the drone.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think it should have, because when the birds were sitting on the ground, before I actually took off and went airborne, I had set the Inspire down about 6 feet in front of the Mavic, and right away the collision avoidance started beeping. So I thought, oh, and I went up and moved the Inspire another 10 feet forward or so. So when they were sitting still on the ground, the collision avoidance was seeing the Inspire, which kind of made me feel good that flying them around, okay, it sees it. That won't be too much of a problem. The only thing was it turned into a problem.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Let's move on. Thanks for joining us, Mel. It was lovely to have you here. I will put a link to your channel in the description after the show. I couldn't do it before because last time I put links in before the show, we got banned. So let's not do that again.
That's quite all right. I appreciate you showcasing my video and helping make awareness to all of us pilots that even though they say they have collision avoidance, it's not foolproof.
Absolutely.
A
Absolutely.
fool can testify to that.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
We'll see you later. I'll pop out.
Thanks, Mel. Bye-bye. So that was Mel. He's got a channel, 400 AGL. 400 AGL, for those who don't know, 400 feet above ground level, and obviously he likes his flying. Thanks for sharing that, Mel.
He's a brave man.
Yeah, I would share some topics, but my computer crashed again a second time. I had 9 gig of memory. Safari, just to share with you, the piece of software that controls which chat things go to screen is Safari. It's just the web browser built into a Mac. And for whatever reason, I had 9.5 gig of memory that Safari was consuming just to show
Holy cow.
a list of messages. It's insane. I have no idea why. I'll get that back in a minute. But I won't bother trying to put a title up for our last section.
Okay.
Video editing, right? So my question, before we spoke about the recording process, have you got any tips and tricks, Chris, that can help people? The reason I do live stuff more than edited is simply because I hate editing.
Yes.
How do you make it easy?
Oh gosh, that's a terrible question. How do you make? I don't enjoy editing personally. I do a lot of it because it's my job, and then I decided to do YouTube and double my workload. I edit as I'm filming. So when I'm out filming, like for example, if I'm filming a video and I'm talking on camera outside of my office, I'm kind of in my head coming up with how this edit is going to go. So once I sit down to edit, I was like, okay, I want this part to come in. Then I know I want this to come in next. And so I'm kind of storyboarding that out in my mind before or as I'm capturing the footage. Even if I'm doing just a strictly a drone edit, I'm making those mental bookmarks to kind of expedite my process once I get back in front of my computer.
So let me just play that back. You're editing in your head as you film to make the process easier later. Okay.
Yes. It's sometimes every once in a while I'll get lucky and I'll actually have music actually picked out before, which is incredibly lucky because then I can kind of I can keep the beat going in my brain as I'm editing and kind of like if I'm doing a drone thing and I'm like, okay, that's a fast-paced song. And so I'll have my movements kind of what I think would go really well with that type of music. And then same thing with if I'm shooting with my handheld camera, I kind of keep that music going in my head or just at least keeping that marker going. Okay, right after that guy fell off the boat, Morgan said something really funny and clever. So I'll keep those things in my mind of knowing how I want to use them as I'm building the story.
Yeah, okay.
Also, don't get worried about being fancy. Just straight cuts. That's, I think people tend to overcomplicate it by wanting to make it all fancy and get to the all the complicated stuff. You can tell an incredible story with very basic, just cut and dry, edit, just a cut, and you can still come up with a great product.
Let me ask you a couple of questions for my own benefit, right? So I'm using Final Cut Pro. If I've got a piece of video footage, and let's say this show, I've edited, I've recorded it, and I want to top and tail, take off the little bit at the beginning, the little bit at the end, but I don't want to re-encode everything.
Okay.
Is there a good piece of software? Because Final Cut, if I go and take in that recording, it goes and outputs it in Apple ProRes, and the file size is massive compared to the original. And how do I just say, hey, I don't want to change the format, I just want to trim?
Well, so you could, if you have QuickTime can do that. You can open up QuickTime, and then I believe it's in the Edit tab. There's a trim, and you can bring in either end of the edit, and then you can just say save as a new file, and it should save as the same codec that you have currently. If you want to bring it into Final Cut again, so you've got this entire file, bring it in. You can trim in your clips. You can trim do your endpoints, your in and outs. And then when you go to, I kind of want to pull it up here so I'm saying the right words. I also use Final Cut. So you can go to File, Share, and then you say it's share as a master file.
Yeah.
That will save you a ton of time on your edit versus using compressor.
Yeah. But when I save as a master file, that's when it's doing it in ProRes rather than an MP4.
Oh, you can change those settings.
I have not. Maybe I'm brain dead. I don't know. But I have not been able to work out how to export in anything other than ProRes format. So after the show's over, Chris, I'd love to chat to you for 5 minutes and work it out.
Yeah, that's a 30-second fix. I promise you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other tips on video editing?
Ooh.
We've had a few questions here. People are looking for any open source products that are worthwhile looking at. Someone said Shortcut isn't bad and it's free. Someone said DaVinci Resolve is not.
Is Sony Vegas still around? Because that one was actually a pretty solid platform for a long time.
And we've got someone else here. VSDC is a pretty good, simple video editor.
I'm not even sure what that one is.
Not heard of that one.
I mean, if you have a Mac, Movie Maker, iMovie, excuse me, is actually a pretty solid editor. It's actually kind of a lighter version of Final Cut Pro, which is, $400 software versus iMovie, which comes with every Mac. Windows has Window Movie Maker. I don't know how well that works. I haven't been on a PC for quite some time.
Yeah, you've been using a real machine for a while then.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Lovelady, Quadcopter 101 uses VSDC for all his stuff. I've never heard of it. Have you, Chris?
I have not. DaVinci, let me see. I have a friend who refuses to work on computers, and he actually does edits on his iPhone that actually are very good. It takes a lot of time, but he can dump footage onto his phone. He's got like 200 something gig, and he'll go through the iMovie on his phone and sit down while he's watching a movie and just with his finger sit there and put together a very impressive edit.
Okay.
So I mean, you can do a lot with very little.
Okay. Well, at this point in time, we've reached 20 minutes over where, 10 minutes over where I was going to be finishing today. So I just wanted to see if there's any last minute chat questions. And if not, we're going to wrap up. While we're waiting for any questions to come in, let me try and press some title buttons. Who knows? It may or may not work.
The anticipation.
Yeah, this is like, I was watching, what's that guy's name? Mr. YouTube. Yeah, YouTuber, the number one, Casey Neistat. He was talking about all of his setups and his anticipation and, how to structure a 3-act story or whatever. And my setup is always, are we going to die today in the show? Anyway, a request, like and subscribe. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. We're a small channel. I'm doing this because it's a lot of fun and I enjoy the community. Just to share with people, I used to run a bulletin board when I was still at school before the internet existed, and I had 40 telephone lines coming into my parents' house through the garage and into this room, and I had racks of modems lined up. I just enjoy doing unusual media, so that's kind of why I'm doing it. Anyway, so please do subscribe to the channel so we can grow a little bit. Twitter, we've got a Twitter account as well. We've got a Facebook page, so feel free to go and have a look at that. Again, if there's anything you would like to send to us physically, there's an address for you, 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales, 2224 Australia. And last but not least, especially all the Australians, view a video, please do send in something to upload@gregkuhnert.com. Do not send the actual video files. Send a link to something that's shared somewhere else. Like I said earlier, I would love to be editing and putting together more content myself, but I'm currently battling the live video production animal, and I don't have enough time to go flying. One day I'll get to the point where all of this technology is set up and just working, and I can pull it in, and we're not quite there yet. Hi, Paul. We've got Paul Parter-Cooper. Paul is a local guy who does some stuff with John's business. Hi, Greg. Hi, Steve from Toronto.
Thanks, Greg.
Fellow Canadian, we've got Walker UAV. Dave Oliver, one of our regulars. Thanks, Greg. Time to go flying. The weather is still great in our neck of the woods. Yeah, it's starting to get a bit cold. So, Dave, if you got some videos, feel free to send it in. If there's no more questions... thanks, Dennis Lovelady. Subscribed and pressed the bell. Did you pay for a beta, Greg? So I had a question from Daryl Lirad, did you pay for a beta? So I'm using two pieces of software here. I'm using Wirecast, which is the video mixing and switching stuff, which is being controlled to my left over there. I keep looking just a little bit to the left. That's where there's a TV screen where I can see Chris. And to the left of that is my daughter, Sophia, who's doing all of the switching, and she's giving me dirty looks for mentioning her name. But she controls all the switching for us. Wirecast, this is not a beta. It's a release version of the software, and, I've been unhappy with it, but that,
It's about the only game in town right now, isn't it?
It's the only game in town unless you use OBS, which I didn't know about when I purchased Wirecast. Had I known about it, I would have probably tried it before. But for the moment, this is what I'm using. And the other piece of software on my computer is New Blue Effects Title Alive. This one is beta, so I'm not going to go and have a hassle out at them because, I can't complain about test software not working correctly. I did previously use the release version and it had some other problems, but they've been helpful in, partnering to resolve those issues. Anyway, that's all we've got time for now. Next time, please do come back and join us next weekend. It's Sunday, 11 a.m. Sydney time, or wherever you are, your time. It's usually got the YouTube event that you can click on in advance so you can get reminded about it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. See you, Chris.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.